Hi. So, do you want to know what COVID is? I can show you what COVID is. COVID's been around since 1992. Most of you just haven't had the chance, the time, or ever paid any attention to what COVID actually is. It's actually something called Agenda 21 is the short title, and here is, I'm going to show this to you on screen. Here is, oh, gotta wait a second, there we go. Here is Agenda 21. It's 492 pages. It was done in Rio de Janeiro on the 3rd to the 14th of June 1992. So this has been around for a while. Basically, this lays out exactly what we're seeing being done with COVID-19. Most of the things in here is all about every aspect of your life. So they got tired of waiting around for people to get scared to death about climate change, and they used a disease. The Rockefeller Foundation has talked about this. Davos has talked about this, called the Great Reset by Davos. So, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but somewhere in here there's oh, here we go, the principles. Human beings are at the center of concerns for sustainable development. Everybody's heard of sustainable development. I don't know how many of you have gone and actually looked into what sustainable development actually means, but what it means is that your way of life is over, and sustainable development means zero carbon being emitted from any source. And since we produce carbon as human beings, we are also part of the cause of the problem, meaning that most of us need to get gotten rid of too. Human beings are entitled to a healthy and productive life in harmony with nature. It's exactly what the Georgia Guidestones say. States have, in accordance with the Charter of the United Nations and the principles of international law, the sovereign right to exploit their own resources pursuant to their own environmental and developmental policies, and the responsibility to ensure that activities within their jurisdiction or control do not cause damage to the environment of other states or of areas beyond the limits of national jurisdiction. So, yeah, there you go. It's saying that you have no rights because whatever you're doing may affect your neighbor. So then the United Nations can come in and try to use quote unquote international law to say you need to knock it off. The right to development must be fulfilled so as to equitably meet developmental and environmental needs of present and future generations. We don't know what the environmental needs of future generations are, and we don't know what the environmental needs of the present generation are, to tell you the truth. Apparently it's getting rid of all carbon in the atmosphere, but carbon is a building block of life, so they're literally telling you that you need to starve to death. Principle 4. In order to achieve sustainable development, environmental protection shall constitute an integral part of the development process and cannot be considered in isolation from it. Principle 5. All states and all people shall cooperate in the essential task of eradicating poverty as an indispensable requirement for sustainable development in order to decrease the disparities in standards of living and better meet the needs of the majority of the people of the world. Principle 6. The special situation and needs of developing countries, particularly the least developed and those most environmentally vulnerable, shall be given special priority. International actions in the field of environment and development should also address the interests and needs of all countries. So that means that if the United States decides to do something and they try to help the United States out, then they need to take into account Bangladesh while they're doing that, and vice versa. Of course, not how it actually works, but yeah, that's what they're saying. States shall cooperate in a spirit of global partnership to conserve, protect, and restore the health and integrity of the Earth's ecosystem. In view of the different contributions to global environmental degradation, states have common but differentiated responsibilities. The developed countries acknowledge the responsibility they bear in the international pursuit of sustainable development in view of the pressures their societies place on the global environment and of the technologies and financial resources they command. So we are responsible. We are the United States is a developed country. China, meanwhile, yeah, not so much. So, they don't have to worry about it so much. Principle 8, to achieve sustainable development and a higher quality of life for all people, states should reduce and eliminate unsustainable patterns of production and consumption and promote appropriate demographic policies. To achieve sustainable development and a higher quality of life for all people, states should reduce and eliminate unsustainable patterns of production and consumption and promote appropriate demographic policies. It's exactly what they did. They turned around and said, oh, about 60% of your economy is unsustainable, so you're non-essential? Non-essential. That has a whole bunch of meanings, but yeah, yeah, that pretty much describes exactly what they're doing with COVID-19 right now. Principle 9, states should cooperate to strengthen endogenous capacity building for sustainable development by improving scientific understanding through exchanges of scientific and technological knowledge and by enhancing the development, adaptation, diffusion, and transfer of technologies, including new and innovative technologies. So if we develop a brand new technology, we need to immediately give it without qualms to any country that decides that they want it. Look at what China has done with all of that, where they have literally stolen it from us and then turn around and use it against us. Principle 10. Environmental issues are best handled with the participation of all concerned citizens at the relevant level. At the national level, each individual shall have appropriate access to information concerning the environment that is held by public authorities, including information on hazardous materials and activities in their communities, and the opportunity to participate in decision-making processes. States shall facilitate and encourage public awareness and participation by making information widely available. Effective access to judicial and administrative proceedings, including redress and remedies, shall be provided. So let's read Principle 10, and we'll take out the environmental nut jobs, and we'll put in the COVID nut jobs. So COVID issues are best handled with the participation of all concerned citizens at the relevant level. At the national level, each individual shall have appropriate access to information concerning the COVID-19 patients that is held by public authorities, including information on hazardous peoples and activities in their communities, and the opportunity to participate in decision-making processes. States shall facilitate and encourage public awareness and participation by making information widely available. Effective access to judicial and administrative proceedings, including redress and remedies, shall be provided. Again, exactly what they're trying to do with us with COVID-19, except for the state has all the power and you have none. You are there to obey them. Principle 11, states shall enact effective environmental legislation. Environmental standards, management objectives, and priorities should reflect the environmental and developmental context to which they apply. Standards applied by some countries may be inappropriate and of unwarranted economic and social costs to other countries, in particular developing countries. So, Principle 11 is very interesting because while they didn't make COVID legislation, they do have lots of orders. And all these big players that didn't get shut down that got deemed essential, well, they are all shoving these stupid masks down our throats. The banks are going to try to take away all of our cash, as you can see with the quote-unquote coin shortage that's going on that's not going on. So they replaced the states through COVID-19 and just decided that they were not acting fast enough, and then they decided that the multinational companies could just step up. Multinational companies, especially the banks that won't let people like the NRA bank at their institutions anymore, or people like you and me who may or may not own gun shops. We're not allowed to bank there, even though they're legitimate businesses. They don't want to take our money. It's kind of like what happened in California when they legalized marijuana, because then the people that were actually growing the marijuana and operating the dispensaries, they wouldn't allow them to bank. So they would sit there with thousands of dollars inside of a safe, and when it got robbed, then there were problems. So I mean, they're doing everything that they can to make it impossible to do anything they've decided for you is not in your best interest, even though it is in your best interest, absolutely in your best interest to be able to defend yourself. And other things like being able to provide for yourself. They're trying to take that away. They want you dependent upon the state, and in this case, the multinational corporation who will dictate to you. Just try to walk into a Walmart. They will dictate to you exactly how you are allowed to go into their store, with or without any executive order from any kind of state. Principle 12. States should cooperate to promote a supportive and open international economic system that would lead to economic growth and sustainable development in all countries to better address problems of environmental degradation. Trade policy measures for environmental purposes should not constitute a means of arbitrary or unjustifiable discrimination or a disguised restriction on international trade. Unilateral actions to deal with environmental challenges outside the jurisdiction of the importing country should be avoided. Environmental measures addressing transboundary or global environmental problems should, as far as possible, be based on international consensus. Principle 13. States shall develop national law regarding liability and compensation for the victims of pollution and other environmental damage. States shall also cooperate in an expeditious and more determined manner to develop further international law regarding liability and compensation for adverse effects of environmental damage caused by activities within their jurisdiction or controlled areas beyond their jurisdiction. It's just so stupid. So in this thing, it's saying that you are supposed to be able to receive compensation from pollution, state to state, because they have decided that carbon dioxide is a pollutant. So China is going to pay $0 to anybody, and we are supposed to pay $10 trillion. That is why Donald Trump went and said, "To hell with you. We are not part of the Trans-Pacific Partnership, and especially the Paris Climate Agreement." Principle 14. States should effectively cooperate to discourage or prevent the relocation and transfer to other states of any activities and substances that cause severe environmental degradation or are found to be harmful to human health. Principle 15. In order to protect the environment, the precautionary approach shall be widely applied by states according to their capabilities. Where there are threats of serious or irreversible damage, lack of full scientific certainty shall not be used as a reason for postponing cost-effective measures to prevent environmental degradation. So they're going to say this science is settled, just like they're doing with COVID, this science is settled, just like they're doing with climate change, this science is settled. It's all settled science. Nobody can actually use a scientific theory and base it on a consensus, but that is what they have continuously done, especially since 1992, to try to tell us that we are all killing the planet and we are to blame. Which also gets into why we're having all of these BLM and Antifa riots saying that you people all need to bow down to us because you have grievously wronged all of us. And I'm sorry, I haven't wronged anybody. And most likely you haven't wronged anybody. And that doesn't matter if you're white, black, green, brown, I don't really care. I don't care. I don't care what color you are. You don't do wrong to people, and I've never done wrong to anybody. And especially on a racist line. Nope, not ever happened. Principle 16. National authorities should endeavor to promote the internationalization of environmental costs through the use of economic instruments, taking into account the approach that the polluter should, in principle, bear the cost of pollution with due regard to the public interest and without distorting international trade and investment. So we're going to sue the crap out of you. In this case, in the COVID case, they just put you in jail and then give you a massive fine. So, I mean, you have COVID and you're out in public and you're not masked up and you're not wearing a ventilator on your face at all times, then yep, I'm gonna have to fine you. It's right there, same thing. Uh, Principle 17, environmental impact assessment as a national instrument shall be undertaken for proposed activities that are likely to have a significant adverse impact on the environment and are subject to a decision of a competent national authority. Principle 18. States shall immediately notify other states of any natural disaster or other emergencies that are likely to produce sudden harmful effects on the environment of those states. Every effort shall be made by the international community to help states so afflicted. Principle 19. States shall provide prior and timely notification and relevant information to potentially affected states on activities that may have a significant adverse transboundary environmental effect and shall consult with those states at an early stage and in good faith. So those last two, did China do that? They knew that they had something weird going on there, but they didn't really do any of that. So I guess the UN model state, which is China, the UN model state doesn't have to follow the UN's own directives when, it benefits the UN model state because the UN has no morals. Principle 20. Women have a vital role in environmental management and development. Their full participation is therefore essential to achieve sustainable development. Principle 21. The creativity, ideals, and courage of the youth of the world should be mobilized to forge a global partnership in order to achieve sustainable development and ensure a better future for all. You remember that Greta Thunberg girl that we all love? We all like being told how to live our lives by whatever she is, 14. Well, everything that she's ever said, you can just take the word environmental or sustainable development and say COVID-19, coronavirus, and SARS-CoV-2. It's all the same thing. Principle 22. Indigenous people and their communities and other local communities have a vital role in environmental management and development because of their knowledge and traditional practices. States should recognize and duly support their identity, culture, and interests enable their effective participation in the achievement of sustainable development, which again is just a ploy to kill everybody, and then the directors of the sustainable development will then be also culled because they're going to be unneeded after most of the planet is wiped out. Principle 23. The environment and natural resources of people under oppression, domination, and occupation shall be protected. So while the Uyghurs are getting marched around on video in a literal slave camp that, maybe they went to an Apple factory, maybe they went to a Nike factory, wherever they were going, at least the environment and the natural resources, those are protected. Not the people under oppression, but the environment that they work in and the natural resources that they are going to use, those are protected. Principle 24. Warfare is inherently destructive of sustainable development. Yes, it is. Warfare is inherently destructive of sustainable development. It's inherently destructive of human life and any kind of moving forward. It is warfare. States shall therefore respect international law providing protection for the environment in times of armed conflict and cooperate in its further development as necessary. Yeah, it's warfare. So unless the UN's doing the warfare, which that's going to be a massive problem if you go into either of the states of Russia or the United States, because we will just shoot your dumbasses. I don't know how that one's actually going to work out, but it looks like with COVID, it works out where you just get all of the governors that you can get, and all the city mayors that you can get, and all the police chiefs that you can get, and the judges, and everybody else that is in a position of power to just tell us exactly how we're going to do. And this is definitely warfare, although it is not conventional warfare yet with bullets and guns and tanks and airplanes and all of that. This is bio warfare. Principle 25: Peace, development, and environmental protection are interdependent and indivisible. Uh, yeah. Principle 26: States shall resolve all their environmental disputes peaceably, and by appropriate means in accordance with the Charter of the United Nations. Principle 27: States and people shall cooperate in good faith and in a spirit of partnership in the fulfillment of the principles embodied in this declaration and in the further development of international law in the field of sustainable development. So, they're literally telling you that the UN will just go ahead and take over everything, and they'll just make your decisions for you, and that's exactly what we're seeing. We're seeing the WHO managing to use Facebook to censor posts that say, you know, this, that, or the other thing, or that hydroxychloroquine works, or the whole idea that, oh, what did they do? They just went after, I believe it was the Brookings Institute today. It was either today or yesterday, and they said, oh, you guys can't say what you said because there's no deaths coming from this. This isn't a pandemic. This is a minor virus that was created by monsters like Bill Gates and Dr. Fauci, and they just want to make a whole boatload of money while literally killing all of us, as many of us as they can. So the rest of this it gets kind of technical. It kind of repeats itself. There's a bunch of chapters in here, and it pretty much goes through every type of life that you can have from that, and pretty much goes through every type of life that you can live and tells you exactly how you get to live it. So it's going to take away millions of jobs. We've already accomplished that with COVID-19. It's going to tell you where you can live, how you can live, and it's disgusting. And that's exactly what we're doing. And if you want to actually understand it, uh, by all means, go read it. The one chapter in there that's a little bit different from the rest because it pretty much goes through and says women and indigenous people have to do this, that, and the other thing. These are the financial structures. These are the environmental factors that we want to reduce, or the things we want to build, or the things we want to make sure are protected against. There is one though, and it's called biological diversity, and basically they have created seed banks. They've created seed banks and virus banks, bacteria banks, and all kinds of banks that they want to catalog every aspect of any life form on the planet, ever, ever. So every time you've ever given blood, oh, I'll bet you it goes there. I'll bet you they have a little snippet of all of our DNA. Everybody. Who knows? Something might work somewhere, but that's exactly what they're trying to do. That one is a little bit different than the rest of them, and but it does. It goes through. It tells you this is how all this is going to go, and we're going to tell you where to live, where to eat, where to sleep, what to drive, if you can even drive. And we're seeing all of that with COVID. We have checkpoints between states. We have quarantine. Yeah, you only quarantine if you're sick. You have an illegal detention center set up. You have FEMA camps going up in places like Arizona and Ohio And this is all based on executive orders, but all of these executive orders are being directed by the United Nations through the WHO. They're censoring your speech. They aren't letting you talk. Even if you are a medical doctor, they're not letting you speak or write anything factual that you are actually finding in the field. And if somehow it does get out, then they slam you, they take you off, and they will ridicule you. So I'm telling you, yes, there's a virus. It is not going to kill you. As long as you don't have 2.3 different things wrong with you and you eat a relatively healthy diet with the nutrients that you need, vitamin D, zinc, vitamin C, uh, get sunlight, get exercise, live a decent life. And this is very hard to do because we are all stuck in our houses. So I don't know, take your walks, go buy a dog so that you can take a walk, something. But make sure that if you make sure that you get what you need to survive, then you're going to be just fine. And we don't need to do all this shutdown stuff. We don't need to be wearing all these masks. And we need to tell these people to get their damn boots off of our throats because they're literally choking out any kind of free life that any of us may have. So I'm going to wrap this up. I encourage you to go read further about what exactly Agenda 21 is, exactly how it's implemented, and exactly how it's done, because that is already coming back into the news. They're using it as something called a Great Reset so that they can completely have sustainable development be enacted on all of us, and they're using COVID to do it. COVID literally is Agenda 21. This is their change agent, and it's important that people understand exactly where they're trying to go with this. I might do another video later, maybe tomorrow or the next day, about the World Economic Forum and what they had to say, and that's completely disgusting as well. And that is literally where they're talking about using COVID-19 as their change agent to get to sustainable development and have just all of the environmental factors come in. And they're not even really talking about the whole COVID-19 thing, although it's a clever cover for them to just dominate your entire life. So I am going to go ahead and wrap this up. I hope all you guys have a great night, and God bless. Say your prayers.